Where did the TLC millions actually go? Fans of Sister Wives were presented with a narrative of poverty for years. Kody Brown maintaining that the family could hardly afford to stay current on bills, living in poverty while the wives took on increasingly more responsibility. However, behind closed doors, there was something else brewing. A plan so well covered that it wasn't until years of rumors, paper trails, and legal actions that it explosively went public. And now a judge has directed Kody to pay back every cent of the swiped TLC money. How did this occur? How did the patriarch of one of America's most well-known polygamist families become the face of a courtroom scandal that has rocked his empire to its foundation? We're about to uncover the story the cameras never showed you, a story that begins not with love and family unity, but with secret accounts, broken promises, and a betrayal so deep that even those closest to him couldn't believe it at first. Because according to court documents and insider reports, Kody Brown wasn't just managing the family's TLC money, he was funneling it, hiding it, and using it in ways that left his wives in the dark. This isn't speculation. This is a case built on receipts, testimonies, and rulings. And for the first time, we're piecing it all together. But be warned, what you are about to hear could change forever the way you perceive Kody, Robyn, and the show that launched them into stardom. This is not a money scandal alone. It is the breakdown of trust, loyalty, and the very image Kody struggled to maintain in front of the world. And as the judge's gavel came down, the reality hit hard. Kody has been ordered to return every dollar he diverted from his wives, his children, and the family's future. Stay with me, because in this deep dive, we'll unpack the shocking courtroom revelations, the emotional fallout from each wife, and the secret evidence that finally exposed the truth. But first, subscribe. This is an ongoing story, and you are going to want to read the next explosive installment. As revealed in exclusive court documents uncovered by journalists, it all started with one red flag for Kody Brown's money empire. For years, the Browns had been receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars per season from TLC money that should have been paid out equitably to the family members who were on camera. But nestled in the contracts, contained within convoluted legal jargon and corporate books, stood one fact: the money was not being paid directly to the wives, as had always been presumed by viewers. Rather, it was being paid into a company owned nearly wholly by Kody. This was not merely sloppy accounting. One source, who closely collaborated with the Browns at the height of their popularity, said that Kody had structured it this way intentionally. He wanted complete control, the source disclosed. The wives believed they all had equal access, but they didn't. Robyn alone knew the truth. It gets worse. Court papers disclosed that while Christine and Janelle were worrying about medical bills, legal expenses, and even paying for their children's education, Kody was quietly siphoning huge chunks of the TLC checks into side accounts. Accounts subsequently used to buy property, take high-end vacations, and even make private investments with no bearing on helping the family. And when the wives started questioning, Kody had lies prepared. He positioned himself as the responsible patriarch, insisting the money was spoken for, and that all he was doing was for the future of the family. But today, due to subpoenaed bank records, we know those answers were deliberately fabricated lies. The judge's decree didn't beat around the bush. Kody Brown had been held accountable for misuse of TLC money, and the court asked for repayment. Not only of some of it, but all of it that had been secretly stashed, diverted, or wasted. Imagine being Christine, Janelle, or even Meri, sitting in that courtroom as the truth came out. Imagine realizing that years of struggle, years of being told, there isn't enough money, were built on a lie. And the most shocking part, Robyn, Kody's so-called favorite wife, wasn't just aware of the scheme. According to testimony, she benefited from it directly. The betrayal wasn't only monetary, it was intimate. It hit at the very core of all the sacrifices the wives had made for the benefit of their family, and the show that was meant to sustain them. And that is just the start. Because what came next wasn't just a legal ruling, it was a dramatic unraveling of the Brown family's carefully constructed public image. Think back to some of the hardest moments we've seen on Sister Wives: Christine pleading with Kody about the cost of their children's health care, Janelle quietly worrying about paying for housing when the family's plans for Coyote Pass fell apart. Even Meri, who was separated and fighting to keep her own tiny business going, but still attempting to keep up with the extended family. Over and over again, we saw these women struggle to get by. Christine once confessed to skipping personal bills solely to ensure her children had what they required. Janelle took on extra shifts, wearing herself thin to help fund a dream that appeared always out of reach. And Meri, she dived head first into her bed and breakfast venture, holding on to something that was hers after hearing, "The family funds aren't there." But here is the harsh reality. The funds were present. They'd always been there, in the background. TLC checks weren't vanishing into space. They were being channeled through accounts that only Kody had control of. Accounts that indicated lavish spending, such as Robyn's mansion home, shopping extravaganzas, and even high-end items that seemed so contradictory to the tears and sacrifices we witnessed from the other wives. So while Christine was pleading to put Jezebel's surgery first, while Janelle was tallying up how many hours she'd have to work just to pay minimum bills, Kody was enjoying the luxury of knowing he had complete freedom to the TLC vault. Can you imagine that? The man who positioned himself as the giver, the guardian, and the head of household, using the very funds his wives had accumulated by giving up their lives on television. To assure his own future, it wasn't betrayal. It was humiliating. And when the truth finally emerged in court, Christine was said to have shaken her head in disbelief. Janelle's face stiffened as the bank documents were revealed. Even Meri, who had stuck with Kody longer than anyone had anticipated, averted her eyes, unable to see the life she had invested in shattered by lying. The emotional damage wasn't merely dollars and cents. It was years of being gaslighted, years of being told they weren't contributing enough, years of shame for even questioning where the money went. The courtroom told the truth. They had been correct the entire time. And the judge's decision made it legal. Kody wasn't the family provider. He was their betrayer. But if you thought that was the most surprising revelation, wait until you find out about the smoking gun proof. The one bit of evidence that connected all the secret accounts, all the dubious purchases, and all the untimely withdrawals back to Kody himself. Expected in every courtroom drama is a turning point. That one piece of testimony that has the jury leaning in, that causes the defense to scramble. That shifts the mood in the room for Kody Brown. That time was when the judge opened the box to show what the attorneys had code, named the golden account. This was no ordinary bank statement. This was the ledger that brought every thread together. For years, the TLC paychecks of the family had been deposited into what they believed was a joint business account. A family account established to manage taxes, living expenses, and investments for the whole family. However, forensic accountants uncovered something peculiar. A shadow account established in the name of Kody that reflected the deposits in suspiciously exact amounts. This is how it operated. TLC deposited a mass sum into the family account. Within 48 hours, an identical amount, or close to it, was transferred into Kody's private account. From there, the trail split, payments toward Robyn's mansion, unexplained wire transfers, even cash withdrawals, in cities Kody had traveled to without filming obligations. The judge paused as the evidence was laid out. "This isn't mismanagement," the court said. "This is an intentional diversion," Christine allegedly breathed out, as if all those years of uncertainty were finally vindicated. Janelle looked over at her lawyer, whispering, "That is it. That is the evidence." And it was. The golden account was now the hub of the case, every dollar accounted for, every transaction laid out. Every denial Kody had made for years blown to pieces by tough figures on a page. It wasn't merely shocking, it was irrefutable. Even Robyn, who had worked so hard in public to defend Kody, had trouble accounting for the money that went directly to her. Money for her house, high-end furniture, and personal expenses were all traced back to the diverted TLC funds pressed on the stand. She tearfully maintained she didn't know where the money had originated, but the judge wasn't buying. The books had spoken louder than tears. And here is the worst part. The account wasn't new. It had been around for almost the whole run of Sister Wives. That meant every season, every check, every sacrifice the wives had made, had been tinged with this secret. For the court, this was the smoking gun. For the wives, it was the callous validation of all their worst fears. And for Kody, it was the start of the end. But that was not all the revelations. For once the account was revealed, witnesses started coming out. insiders who had tales that fueled the fire even further. If the golden account was the smoking gun, the subsequent witnesses were the nails in the financial coffin of Kody. First up was an ex-TLC production assistant. Their role in the early seasons was easy: keep an eye on expenditures and assist with coordinating payment for shooting. But on the stand, this assistant produced a tidbit that left the courtroom agog. Only Kody ever picked up checks from TLC, the witness swore. We were instructed to give them to him directly, never to the wives. And that single sentence confirmed what most had long believed: the control wasn't a mistake. Kody had planned it this way. Then came an accountant who worked for the family for a short time years ago. She testified about an intense argument in private, Christine asking why the TLC money never seemed to pay out what it promised. The accountant remembered Kody interrupting her curtly. "She doesn't have to worry about the money. That is my job." But the accountant recalled something else. Kody had requested that he establish alternate accounts for tax purposes. The request had struck him as suspicious, and the accountant quit the job shortly thereafter. Now, years down the road, his testimony fit hand in glove with the paper trail investigators discovered. And then there was the most incriminating testimony of all: one of the Browns' former family friends, someone intimate enough to have insight into their personal struggles, testified. In a shaking voice, they testified how Robyn once boasted about not having to worry about finances. "Kody takes care of me," she had supposedly said, which indicated that her circumstance was different from that of the other wives. As asked to explain herself, the friend testified. She said Christine and Janelle were constantly complaining about bills, but that she did not have to worry because Kody provided for her expenses. Gasps erupted in the courtroom. Christine remained expressionless, while Janelle shook her head with revulsion. Piece by piece, the defense imploded. Kody's lawyers attempted to claim that all the money was spent in family benefit. But the receipts spoke louder, the witnesses corroborated, and the judge visibly lost patience with each of the excuses that failed. When Kody maintained that no one was cheated, the judge cut him off. "Then, why," the court inquired, "did you keep the existence of this account hidden for almost 10 years? There was no decent answer. The affidavits didn't merely establish financial deception. They created a picture of intentional favoritism, manipulation, and betrayal, of comfort for one wife and shouldering the burden of unnecessary sacrifices by the rest. And yet, as sensational as these affidavits were, the greatest blow had yet to come. Because Christine herself was set to get on the stand, and what she had to say would turn the whole trial from a money scandal to deep-level personal betrayal. When Christine approached the witness stand, the room was silent. She wasn't there to be a reality television personality. She wasn't there to be an ex-wife seeking revenge. She was there to be a mother who had been compelled to struggle on behalf of her children's needs and told there just wasn't enough money. Her voice remained calm at first, yet her words meant something. "I asked him again and again about the money," she explained. "Whenever one of the children needed something, whenever we had a doctor's bill, whenever tuition was due, the response was always the same: we can't pay for it." Christine stopped, her gaze dropping to the pile of bank statements on the table before her. "But now I realize, we could afford it. We just weren't supposed to." The courtroom leaned in on her every word. She spoke of moments fans recalled vividly: the desperate appeal to fund Isabel's surgery, the numerous discussions about how to scrounge up enough to proceed with Coyote Pass, the unspoken sacrifices she made to push every dollar. Then came the turning point. Christine informed the court of a particular evening when she discovered Kody and Robyn going through documents together. When she inquired as to what it was, Kody snapped at her and informed her it was family business she would not comprehend. She later learned it had been mortgage documents for Robyn's mansion. "He gazed at me with his eyes and informed me that we could not afford to have surgery for our daughter," she added, her voice cracking. "And all the while he was signing for $1 million home." Christine brushed away tears but would not crumble. "It wasn't finances that he took. He took trust. He took years of my life. He took the security of my children." The judge rocked back in her chair, clearly disturbed. Even court staff uncomfortably changed positions as she testified. Christine concluded with a statement that reverberated through the courtroom. "Kody always said he was building us a legacy, but the only legacy he left was debt, pain, and lies." Gasps ran through the crowd. Some even applauded before being hushed. In that instant, Christine wasn't merely a witness, she was the emotional heart of the case, and her testimony cut through every legal defense Kody's lawyers attempted to erect. The tide had shifted entirely, but Christine wasn't the only wife with something to say. Next up was Janelle, and her proof wasn't just emotional. It was supported by hard, cold data that cut right through any excuses Kody still had left. If Christine's words had begun to crack Kody's defenses, Janelle's shattered them wide open. Where Christine testified from the heart, Janelle testified armed with spreadsheets, account statements, and years of precise record. She wasn't emotional, she was methodical. Janelle led the court through the figures step by step, detailing how she recorded family income against outlays for years. She exuded confidence, as if she had waited this long for this moment. Each TLC payment was to be deposited in a joint account, Janelle said. Then it was to pay for joint family bills, mortgages, utilities, food, kids, things, and yes, savings toward the future. She stopped, brandishing a pile of statements. But beginning in 2016, the deposits did not equal the payouts. Money was going missing before it ever reached the family accounts. Gasps murmured through the gallery. Janelle next produced wire transfers. Tens of thousands of dollars steered directly from TLC's payments into accounts in Robyn's name. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't an accounting mistake. This was deliberate redirection of funds. She didn't yell, she didn't have to. The figures spoke more loudly than anything else. At one point, Janelle presented a chart she'd made comparing medical expenses for the children with luxury spending by Robyn and Kody during the same period. The difference was stark. March 2019, estimated cost of Jezebel's surgery of $20,000 denied as too costly. April 2019, $22,000 taken out to pay for Robyn's jewelry shopping. June 2020, Christine requested assistance with tuition, denied. July 2020, $38,000 transfer to pay down payment for Robyn's mansion. The courtroom shook its head in amazement. Then came Janelle's bombshell. Within 8 years, I followed more than $1.3 million that never was used to take care of family needs. That money was diverted, concealed, and spent without our knowledge or permission. Kody attempted to interrupt, head shaking wildly, but the judge quieted him with a stern crash of the gavel. Janelle finished her testimony with a straightforward declaration. Families are built on trust. You can rebuild money, but you can't rebuild trust once it is stolen. Kody stole both. Her even-toned delivery packed a punch that even any anger could not have. And with that, the court wasn't merely hearing a case of financial mismanagement, it was witnessing outright fraud. Finally, the judge addressed the last wife who stood by Kody longer than anyone else. Meri, and the testimony came back to show how deep the betrayal was, even for someone who had defended him. Meri had been the loyal one, the wife who remained, the wife who kept at it, the wife who defended Kody even when the other wives challenged him. But when she testified, the facade broke and the court witnessed a woman with years of pain that no one knew about. Her fingers slightly shook when she fitted on the microphone. She did not arrive with heaps of evidence or charts that were neatly arranged like Christine and Janelle. What she carried was the burden of betrayal. I remained, she whispered. I remained longer than I should have because I trusted him. I trusted every sentence he spoke about why there wasn't money. I trusted him when he said the wives were overreacting. I trusted him when he said he was shielding us. Meri paused, her breath hitching. It was all a lie. She explained how she had invested her own retirement savings to keep the family going when finances were low. She remembered cashing out tiny pension accounts and secretly paying bills, believing she was supporting the family through tough times. But it turned out differently. The money that she sacrificed had been transferred into the very accounts Kody and Robyn were concealing. There welled up tears in her eyes as she said, I wasn't betrayed only as a wife. I was betrayed as a partner, a sister wife, and one who gave all I had to the family. I wasn't even good enough for honesty. The courtroom fell silent. Even those with little sympathy for Meri out there leaned in, attuned to the fact that her words were spoken from a place of deep pain. At one point, Meri's voice hardened. She revealed how she had once begged Kody to explain where the TLC checks were going. He dismissed her, telling her she wasn't good with money and should let Robyn handle it. She looked directly at him across the courtroom and said, You told me I wasn't good with money, but I was good enough to earn it, and you were good enough to steal it." That line cut through the air like a blade. Even the judge paused, letting it sink in. By the time Meri resigned, the trend was irreversible. Each of the wives had shown a portion of the puzzle. Christine, the emotional damage; Janelle, the tangible evidence; and Meri, the profound betrayal that uncovered the manipulation. The defense team of Kody panicked. But the momentum had been too far gone. The court had heard enough to recognize the truth. But there was still one voice that needed to be heard. Robyn and her evidence wasn't just turning the case, it was shattering any remaining defense that Kody might have had. When Robyn testified, the mood changed overnight. She had always been the most controversial member of the family, accused by viewers and even the other wives of being Kody's favorite, his facilitator, and the one most in receipt of the secret money. Initially, Robyn attempted to keep calm. She sat straight, her tone measured. "I never took anything," she started. "Any money that went into accounts in my name was for the family." Kody said it was safer that way. But the court wasn't looking for vague promises. The prosecutor set a sequence of bank statements in front of her, each with large amounts deposited into her accounts, funds that had come from TLC. Robyn's hands trembled slightly as she attempted to clarify. "Kody promised me he would transfer it back later. He explained the family couldn't trust other banks," he said. She lost her train of thought. There was total silence in court. Christine, Janelle, and Meri watched anxiously from the gallery. They had suspected for years what was going on, but listening to Robyn bumble over the truth was vindication. The prosecutor pushed on. "So you are telling this court you didn't know you were the only beneficiary of accounts that had over $600,000 in misdirected money?" Robyn's eyes flashed to Kody. He glared back, silently encouraging her to hold on. But fissures were starting to open. Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't know the whole amount," she whispered. "Kody told me it was temporary. He swore it was for the family. I trusted him." Gasps filled the air. For the first time, Robyn wasn't spouting excuses for Kody with conviction. She was being vulnerable. The prosecutor prodded one last time. "Mrs. Brown, are you telling us that Kody lied to you too?" Robyn's voice cracked. "Yes, he lied to me. He told me things that weren't true. I thought I was doing good, but now I realize I wasn't. I was being used too." The effect was devastating. The faithful wife, the one that stood by Kody while everyone else left him, had just testified under oath that he had lied to her too. Kody's face grew red with anger. He bellowed, pounding his fist on the table. "That is not true. She knew everything." The judge instantly banged the gavel over him, cutting him off. But the harm was already done. Robyn's tears would have previously been perceived as weakness, but at that time they were the last nail in Kody's defense. The wives were no longer united against him, but now had his own ally effectively validating the fraud. The judge reclined, obviously considering the testimonies, and with all four women's tales bare, the trial reached its most crucial stage. The forensic accountants and expert witnesses who would demonstrate beyond any shadow of doubt just how much was taken. Maybe the wives' testimonies exposed the anguish, but the forensic accountants exposed the crime. Figures don't lie, and the experts ensured the court viewed every lost dollar. The lead accountant, a grizzled investigator who had worked on big-name fraud cases in the past, approached with a thick binder. His steady, calm voice carried gravity with each word. "We were brought in to review 8 years of financial documents related to Mr. Brown and his related accounts," he started. "What we discovered was a systematic pattern of covering up." The accountant presented graphs demonstrating TLC's production company paying the Brown family regular payments. But beginning in 2015, deposits started disappearing before they even made it to the shared family account. "We followed these dollars," he said, "and found a trail of transfers funneled through shell accounts. Accounts opened in Robyn Brown's name but operated solely by Kody." The evidence was telling. More than $200,000 had gone toward mortgage payments on Robyn's Flagstaff mansion. About $150,000 were paid for private family vacations. Trips never revealed to the family members. Cash to the tune of nearly $400,000 was withdrawn, its intended use not accounted for. And most startling, $100,000 was transferred offshore into an investment fund associated with the Nevada LLC Kody had secretly established. The accountant indicated the offshore transfers. This shows intent. This was not careless bookkeeping or bad communication. These were deliberate actions to take money out of reach. The courtroom hummed. Offshore accounts weren't merely shady. They were criminal in this case. Then, a second expert testified. This one, a tax accountant, she described how Kody had omitted much of these stolen. Not only building a case of fraud, but one of possible tax evasion. Kody Brown acted like a family man on television, the expert stated firmly. But as far as money went, he acted like he was the owner of a shell company that was created to steal and stash money. Kody sat paralyzed with fear, sweat forming on his brow. His defense lawyer attempted to object, but every objection was denied. The paper trail was too obvious. Finally, the accountant made a statement that came crashing into the courtroom like a hammer. Based on our professional opinion, Mr. Brown consciously and consciously stole at least $1.7 million of family income for his own benefit, depriving his wives and children of the funds to which they were legally entitled. Christine hid her face in her hands. Janelle nodded severely, as if to say, "I knew it." Meri gazed ahead, jaw clenched. Robyn cried silently. The figures now could no longer be denied, and the patience of the judge with Kody was growing thinner and thinner by the minute. Next up would come the court's scrutiny of Kody himself, the long-awaited cross-examination. When Kody Brown was summoned to the stand, the tone of the courtroom changed. For years he had been the most vocal member of the family, the self-styled patriarch, the guy who insisted on respect. But in court, under oath, no bluster was tolerated. Initially, he attempted to appear confident. He sat up straight, fingers clasped, leaning toward the microphone. "I've always done what is best for my family," he asserted. "Any financial decisions I made were with their future in mind, long term." The prosecutor wasn't interested in generalities. "Mr. Brown," she started, scanning through her notes. "Is it true that on the 15th of March 2019 you refused to provide surgery funds for your daughter, while simultaneously sending $22,000 into an account under the control of Robyn Brown?" Kody shifted uncomfortably. "That money was an investment." "It wasn't. Just respond to the question. Did you refuse the surgery funds?" "Yes." "And did you send $22,000 the same week?" Kody's jaw clenched. "Yes." The gallery exploded in whispers. The prosecutor kept at him, pounding him with dates, dollar amounts, and receipts. Each time, Kody attempted to spin the tale, describing it as strategic planning or temporary reallocation, but the paper trail battered his excuses. "Mr. Brown," the prosecutor went on, "is it also a fact that you cashed out close to $400,000 in cash between 2017 and 2021? What did you do with that money?" Kody swallowed hard. "It was family expenses. Groceries, utility bills, that sort of thing." The prosecutor sneered. "Groceries, utilities, in cash withdrawals of $50,000 at a time?" The judge's eyebrow shot up. The courtroom murmured a soft laugh before it was hushed. Kody's face burned as he stuttered. I didn't keep every detail in mind. I was trusting God to supply." That line proved to backfire immediately. The prosecutor jumped on it. "So your defense is that God instructed you to stash money from your wives and children." Gasps circulated the room. Even Robyn hung her head, not able to look at him. Kody's rage started to bubble. He lashed out. "They don't know what it takes to be the patriarch of a family this large. I had to make choices they wouldn't agree with." But his tirade only served to reiterate what the wives had been claiming all along. That Kody wasn't guarding the family, he was guarding himself. The prosecutor struck the final blow. "Mr. Brown, you were not the head of a family. You were the head of a fraud. And the proof is that you stole not only from your wives, but from your children." There was stunned silence in the courtroom. Kody slumped back in his chair, literally shaken sweat running down his temples. The cross-examination was complete, and the one-time self-assured patriarch had been laid bare before all. Now, only the judge's decision remained, the moment that would determine Kody's destiny once and for all. As Kody emerged from the witness stand, the silence was thick. He had attempted to dictate the terms, but the figures, the testimonies, and even Robyn's grudging confessions had brought him down. Now, the entire courtroom focused on the bench. The judge took off her glasses, placing them carefully on the desk before her. She scanned the courtroom, her face impossible to decipher. The silence hung there for a moment, almost suffocating. At last, she spoke. "You have presided over numerous cases of financial impropriety," she started out. "But seldom do I come across a case where betrayal is so cutting as it is here. This is not merely a matter of figures in an account book. This is a matter of trust broken, promises shattered, and a family destroyed." The words cut deep. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat, while the wives remained frozen, anticipating what came next. The judge continued. The testimonies of Christine, Janelle, and Meri painted a picture of emotional devastation. The forensic accountants presented indisputable evidence of deliberate deception, and Mrs. Robyn Brown's testimony, though painful, confirmed that Mr. Brown manipulated even those closest to him. She looked straight at Kody. "This court finds your excuses inconsistent, evasive, and in most instances deceptive. You came in here professing yourself the guardian of your family, but the evidence indicates you were its exploiter." The gallery nodded in assent. Then came the cold shot. "Mr. Brown, this is not simply bad judgment, this is fraud." Gasps ran through the room. Kody's lawyer stood up, prepared to protest, but the judge stopped him with a vigorous rap of the gavel. "You will get an opportunity to make your closing arguments, but let me be plain, the evidence here is overwhelming." The wives glanced at each other. Christine gripped Janelle's hand. Meri breathed slowly, as if letting go of years of accumulated incredulity. Robyn covered her face with shaking hands. The judge sat back, her voice firm but unshakable. "In consideration of the evidence brought before it, this court will proceed to make a formal determination regarding restitution and fines." It was intolerable tension. Everybody knew what was next, but nobody knew how far the court would push. Kody's kingdom, his fortune, his patriarchal image hung by a thread, and the judge was about to sever it. The judge's announcement that fraud had occurred established the tone. Nevertheless, both sides had a final opportunity to influence the court. The atmosphere was charged as the lawyers put on closing arguments. The prosecution went first. The lawyer stood firm, voice loud and deliberate. "Your Honor, this case is not complex. Simply put, it is one of a man who stole money that wasn't his. He was tasked with handling money to maintain his wives and children. He diverted those funds for himself, luxury residences, personal vacations, mysterious cash withdrawals, and even foreign accounts." She turned to the wives, who sat in silence in the gallery. "Each of these women has come forward. They were withheld from the medical treatment their children needed, withheld from stability, withheld from security. They weren't just financially defrauded, so much as they were robbed of trust and dignity." Then came the scathing finale. Kody Brown is not a victim of misunderstanding. He is the mastermind of a scam, and now it is time he pays back every cent he stole. The courtroom hummed with muted nods and whispers of assent. Then it was the defense. Kody's lawyer stood, his tone cutting, nearly desperate. "Yes, there were errors," he acknowledged. "But this is a family affair, not a criminal venture. Mr. Brown was under enormous stress, managing multiple homes, children, and public scrutiny. Any fiscal mistakes were made in the whirlwind of maintaining an unusually large household, not out of malice." He nodded toward Kody, who sat battered but still defiant. "My client did not steal. He survived. He perhaps did so imperfectly, but his heart was always in protecting the future of the family. To punish him as if he were a corporate felon is not justice. It is revenge." There was a moment of silence. The wives' faces said it all. Christine shook her head in disbelief. Janelle scribbled something on a notepad, muttering under her breath. Meri's lips tightened. Robyn stared blankly, as if even she couldn't believe what she was hearing. The judge raised a hand, signaling the arguments were finished. Her gaze drifted across the room, taking its time, and then settled on Kody and the wives. "I have heard enough," she announced. "This court is prepared to deliver its decision." The atmosphere thickened. Some breathed in silence. Others held their hands clenched in anticipation of the blow. And in the following seconds, Kody Brown's whole life would be determined. The judge tidied her robes, her face solemn. The room was silent, all eyes fixed on her. Even the air was immobile. After due consideration of the testimony, the financial records, and the arguments made, she started out. The court concludes that Mr. Kody Brown willfully and knowingly converted marital and family income into personal use. Such conduct is fraud, financial misconduct, and fiduciary duty breach. Kody shifted uncomfortably, his attorney speaking urgently in his ear, but the judge continued. According to the court order, Mr. Brown is to make a total of $1.7 million in restitution. These are diverted TLC payments, unauthorized withdrawals, and money hidden in secret accounts. These monies must be returned directly to the plaintiffs, Christine Brown, Janelle Brown, and Meri Brown. Within a set time frame, gasps rippled through the courtroom. Christine clutched Janelle's arm, her eyes wide. Meri's lips quivered, tears brimming. Even Robyn, still seated apart, buried her face in her hands. But the judge wasn't finished. In addition to restitution, she went on. This court also imposes a penalty of $250,000 for tax underreporting and financial concealment, payable to the state. Additionally, all future TLC payments deriving from the Sister Wives program are to be paid into a court-supervised account until the restitution is fulfilled. Kody's jaw hung open. His empire, his dominance, even his lifeline of reality television revenue had just been taken away. The judge leaned forward, her voice more biting now. Mr. Brown, you stood before us as the patriarch of this family, but being a leader is not the same as exploitation. You took from the people you pledged to protect. This court finds your actions not only illegal, but profoundly immoral. There was a silence when she raised her gavel. The verdict is entered, restitution ordered, case closed. The gavel came down. The room exploded. Some clapped, some gasped, others sat stock. Still in shock, Christine cried outright. Janelle closed her eyes, muttering something under her breath. Meri brushed away, a tear she wouldn't let anyone see. And Kody? He just sat there, white, his eyes fixed on the desk in front of him, like the walls of his meticulously constructed world had just come tumbling down. But this was not the end, because what followed the verdict, the mayhem outside the courtroom, the public outcry, and the repercussions in the family, would be as explosive as the trial itself. When the gavel fell, the trial was done. But for the Browns, the repercussions were just getting underway. The instant the court recessed, newsmen stampeded onto the courthouse steps. There was a flurry of flashes, thrusting microphones, and a welter of sound that built into a wall of din. Christine led off with head held high. She did not smile, but there was relief on her face, a stillness that came from being at last vindicated. She had only this to say to newsmen: all we wanted was the truth. Today, we got it. Then there was Janelle, serene as ever. She clasped a folder of papers to her chest. This was never about revenge, she declared. It was about accountability. Families are entitled to honesty, especially from the leaders of their families. Meri came last, her complexion pale but firm. When asked whether she felt betrayed, she replied unequivocally, absolutely. But betrayal only defines you if you allow it to. I am moving on. The sea of cameras turned to Robyn, who stood in the doorway, her eyes bloodshot from tears. She would not speak, rushing past the reporters with her arms crossed over herself. Her silence was more powerful than words. She was shattered, torn between duty and the undeniable reality. And then Kody emerged. The once dominant patriarch was a far cry from the man people recognized on television. His shoulders hunched forward, his face reddened with rage. He elbowed through the horde, yelling at journalists. This isn't over, you don't know the whole story. His attorney attempted to cover for him, but Kody's fury overflowed. One journalist yelled, Kody, do you confess you stole the money? He turned round, finger in the air. I never stole anything. This is a lie, lies from angry women who seek to ruin me. The statement boomeranged at once. The wives, who were a few feet away, became rigid, their expressions immobile. The public, already doubtful, saw only a man losing his grip. Social media blew up within minutes. Footage of the verdict, Christine's calm statement, and Kody's angry tirade went viral. Hashtags such as #KodyExposed, #SisterWivesJustice, and number TLCF fraud trended on all platforms. Fans analyzed each moment, some cheering on the wives, others shocked that years of suspicion were finally validated in court. Even die-hard critics of the series conceded they'd not anticipated a real-life scandal this size. The Browns had never been a broken family. But now the entire world was witnessing their breakup live. And behind the press reports, the question was starting to emerge. With restitution issued and trust broken, what would become of TLC's ratings? Hit sister wives. Would the network dump them, or invest more in the drama? The trial was finished, but the repercussions